he would obviously like a fresh start and go somewhere where he gets some reps and work and change the scenery. But you're not just going to give away the former 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft unless it makes a little sense. Now, we'll see how the draft materializes. Maybe somebody doesn't get somebody. Maybe somebody gives up some pick that makes it worth the Colts' while. But
here, Indiana move. We from Indiana. We from Indiana move. I'm an Indiana move.
The ball, there's a fumble. Who's got it? The officials say the Colts do.
Great team win, baby.
Drops it way downfield, intercepted, coming forward and making the INT for the Colts in the back end. To see the Colts win Super Bowl.
Hey, win on 3. 1, 2, 3, win!
Welcome back to the channel. This is Marcus Sniffles, and this week is the league owners meeting. So we're going to I listened to the interviews that Carly Ursay-Gordon did. I listened to the interviews that Chris Ballard did. I listened to the interviews that Shane Steichen did. And I'm going to kind of go over some of the interesting things that I pulled from that. We'll first start off with Shane Steichen because he's a fairly boring guy. He doesn't say anything interesting. He doesn't say anything out of the ordinary. He actively tries to say nothing. But the one thing that he did say that stood out to me is that when talking about Daniel Jones and preparing for the next season, that Riley Leonard is going to be getting all of the snaps for summer program, off-season workouts, training camp, all those kinds of things. He kept repeating Riley Leonard is going to be the guy that's going to be taking all the snaps until Daniel Jones is completely healthy. That'll kind of go into my Chris Ballard take, but I guess my main question about that would be is how good does Riley Leonard have to look in the offseason and maybe into the preseason for Shane Steichen to kind of maybe pull the plug on the Daniel Jones experiment, as far as kind of like how the Seahawks did with Matt Flynn and Russell Westbrook. Not Russell Westbrook. I just did a basketball video. Russell Wilson, or kind of how they did in San Francisco with Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Jimmy Garoppolo. There is a small possibility that Riley Leonard develops and gets better this offseason, gets a stronger arm, becomes more accurate, is going into the second season of this offense and knows it a little bit better and is more comfortable. And he is also already a more mobile quarterback. What if he is the best quarterback going into the regular season? What if Daniel Jones, say Daniel Jones isn't ready for week 1 and Riley Leonard goes in there and lights it up? How are we feeling about that? How are we feeling about that Daniel Jones contract? Now, is that likely? I don't think so, based on what I saw draft night as a prospect. I didn't think Riley Leonard was that good, but what I saw against Houston kind of made me feel like, okay, Shane Steichen can get this done with Riley Leonard if he had to. So I'm going to keep a very close eye on that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys something. About 90% of you guys that watch this video are not subscribed to the channel. Don't be a weirdo. Subscribe to the channel. Don't be part of the 90%. Be a part of the 10%. And let's get that 10% to 90%. So 90% of you guys that are watching are actually subscribed. That would help me out a lot. Cost you nothing. It's free and I'd appreciate it. The next thing I want to talk about is what Chris Ballard said. He was going around kind of saying how when it came to Anthony Richardson, sometimes players need to go somewhere else and get a fresh start to succeed. And that has happened here in Indianapolis, as far as players on their rookie deal either not working out and working out somewhere else, or being good but being great somewhere else. You kind of look at Anthony Richardson might be a candidate. A.D. Mitchell, I think low key. I think A.D. Mitchell with Geno Smith as wide receiver 2 with a Breece Hall in the backfield Just watch what AD Mitchell does. I'm not gonna say like prediction wise what he's going to do. Just keep a little eye on what AD Mitchell is doing in New York. Okay, either way, we have AD Mitchell, who is now gone. Nick Cross, who was good for the last 2 years, didn't get re-signed and is now in Washington. We have Bobby Okereke, who was really good here, but we didn't re-sign him after his rookie deal. Malik Hooker was also, I think that was a little bit more of not fitting into a particular defense, but he's still in the league, so he's obviously still productive. How many players do you have to draft and lose before we start looking at you and like, okay, you keep drafting these people, they're doing fine here, and then you don't keep them. Draft, develop, extend. Like, what? Come on. Keep the guys that we drafted. You drafted these guys and developed them, and then they're producing for other teams. At some point, you got to look at Chris Ballard and say, okay, what exactly are you doing here for real? And obviously the big talking point this offseason was Anthony Richardson and the idea that the trade market for him wasn't that high. There wasn't a big market for him. There weren't a lot of teams calling for him. And I don't know how much of that I believe is true. I think there is a possibility that teams, I do believe that maybe not as many teams called as maybe I predicted, but I also think the asking price on our end is probably pretty high. And we're talking about a top 5 pick. You obviously don't want to just give that up for nothing. You want to trade Anthony Richardson for some value. You don't want to give him up for a 7th round pick. You probably don't even want to give him up for a 6th round pick. But you have to be realistic. He showed flashes. He didn't have the consistency, and he was injury prone here. Now the highs were really high, but the lows are really low. So you can't expect too many teams to be banging down the door to get him. Now the teams that I thought would try to get him, the number 1 team I thought that would try to get him was Minnesota, and they moved on and got Kyler Murray and brought back Carson Wentz. So you look at teams like maybe Pittsburgh and Green Bay is still in the mix, but I don't think any team is going to make a move for Anthony Richardson until after the draft. If say Pittsburgh, say Aaron Rodgers decides to go back and the Green Bay Packers find a quarterback in the draft that they like that can back up Jordan Love, I think that they go that direction. How many teams that have a great starting quarterback are willing to give up draft value for someone like Anthony Richardson? Like there's not really a lot of teams that are, if say someone like the Arizona Cardinals don't get their quarterback in the draft, or, they just feel comfortable going with Jacoby Brissett. Like I don't, the Cardinals, the Steelers, maybe the Jets are really the only teams I can see maybe making a call. And obviously the Packers if they don't find a quarterback in the draft. But I feel like Chris Ballard would be more willing to trade Anthony Richardson for a 6th to 7th round pick if he wouldn't have traded Michael Pittman Jr. for nothing. If you would have got a 3rd or 4th round pick for Michael Pittman Jr., you would probably accept taking a 6th or 7th round pick for Anthony Richardson because we have a 3rd or 4th from the wide receiver. Instead, we're probably going to get another 7th round pick to go along with the other 7th round pick we got from Michael Pittman. Why were you okay with doing that? If you're not willing to trade Anthony Richardson for nothing, you gave away Michael Pittman for nothing, give away Anthony Richardson for nothing. Michael Pittman Jr. was a 2nd round productive pick. And now you want to kind of be greedy and be like, oh, I'm just going to hold on to Anthony Richardson until someone gives me the offer that I want. Well, what if the offer that you want isn't out there? What if your asking price is too high? What if you're asking for a 4th round pick and everybody else is like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not giving you a 5th round pick. You can have a 7th round pick. You can have a 7th round pick that maybe becomes a 6th round pick if he pans out to be something. But we've seen your work, Chris Ballard. We saw you give away Michael Pittman for nothing because you wanted to do right by him while doing worse for the team that you work for. So you can't have it both ways. You can't just give away a guy for nothing because you want to do right by him and then keep a guy here hostage because you're not getting the value you think that you deserve for a player that you picked that you messed up on. You can't have it both ways. And I would love to see there's an alternate reality where after the draft, heading into training camp, Anthony Richardson is still on the roster. And now we have to go back to revisit Shane Steichen's quotes about Riley Leonard. If Anthony Richardson is at camp, is he quarterback 3 now? All the stuff that you said about him as far as his development, his offseason work, his progression, yeah, he lost the quarterback battle to Daniel Jones, but you guys said he got better as a quarterback. You said that he developed. You said he knows the offense more. You said that he improved as a passer. So was all that lies? Because you can't tell me that if Anthony Richardson improved as a passer and knows the offense better, you can't tell me with a straight face that he's a better quarterback than Riley Leonard. So now what do we do? Now what are you going to do, Shane? Now Chris Ballard has thrown a dead fish in your lap. And what are you going to do? You got to do your job, man. I don't think you can justify putting Anthony Richardson at quarterback 3. I just don't. I don't think that would work. So I want what's best for the Colts, obviously, and I want what's best for Anthony Richardson. I still somewhat feel like the best place for him to be is in Indianapolis, because the main reason Daniel Jones came here is the main reason Anthony Richardson should stay here. The quarterback is injury prone. If you had to bet your life on it, do you think Daniel Jones is going to stay healthy this season, the entire season? Because I don't. And I would rather have the superhuman athlete that got better, according to you guys, as my backup to Daniel Jones. You made it this far. If you have not liked the video at this point, what are you waiting for? Just like the video. Hit the like button right now. I'm talking to you. Make sure you like the video and subscribe and drop a comment. All that stuff. This is a threat. Not a threat, a warning. But it could be a threat. Just do it. And the last thing I want to talk about is Carly Ursay-Gordon and her interviews. She does a lot of interviews, which I don't have a problem with. I like that she's a front-facing owner. I like that she goes out there and speaks her mind. She knows what she's talking about, all that good stuff. Obviously, she has to deal with, the mouth-breathing sexists who are just like, why is a woman there talking about football? Why is she wearing a headset? Now, the headset thing is something that she has been doing for at least 3 seasons. And it just kind of got more amplified because Jim Irsay died. So it's like, okay, let's focus on her now. Like, now she's the headline for this. So this isn't something new that she's been doing. She's been doing this for a few years. Colts fans have seen her on the sideline prior to this last season. And I like that she is so involved with the team as far as being in meetings, asking questions, taking notes, charting plays, being on the sideline, having a headset. All that stuff is cool. All that stuff is fine. I think for Colts fans, I don't think that's ever going to be an issue here. I do think from the national media standpoint, people aren't going to like, the fashion show, the owner on the sideline, the owner with the headset, the owner taking notes if the Colts are losing. Because if Jerry Jones was doing this, we would look at it a certain way. If the owner for the Raiders was doing this, we'd look at it a certain way. If the owner of the Titans was doing this, it would be looked at a certain way because those teams lose. Those teams are losers. So obviously the owner being involved makes it look bad. It makes it look like they're meddling. Now, Chris Ballard specifically said that Carly Ursay-Gordon isn't a meddling owner. She's just there to take notes, to understand, to learn, so that you just can't get over on her. You just can't try to throw someone else under the bus. She knows what players are being called and why they're being called. And the thing that I like the most is that Chris Ballard says she makes the Monday after the game tougher because you can't hide behind, oh, we had a meeting about this, or I can just talk around her, talk above her, and use football jargon that she might not understand. She knows the game plan. She knows the plays. She knows the scheme. She knows all this stuff. You can't hide from the plays that you called, the players that you played, the players that you didn't play, because she knows this. So that makes your job, you have to be on point. If you're going for it on 4th down, you have to know exactly why you're doing it, why you called the particular play, and be able to explain yourself, because she knows and she's the owner. And I would be the same way. If I was the owner of a football team, I would be more I'd be more so like Jerry Jones. I would be in the draft room saying, draft that guy. I want that guy. Call this play. Go for it on 4th down. Punt it. Blitz. I would be doing all that kind of stuff. So the idea that she is kind of just holding back and saying like, hey, I just want to understand what's going on so I can ask the right questions, so I can help as far as signing players, extending players in the draft room, stuff like that. So I'm a fan of this. I'm curious to see how she is perceived if the Colts start losing. If we start out 1-5, if we finish the season again on like a 6-game losing streak. I want to see how she's perceived by the outside. I'd just be curious. And to finish this video off, she did do an immaculate grid that I found. I feel like the immaculate grid is something that I should love doing, and I maybe there's an app for that. Maybe I need to look into that. But I found myself doing it with her. So while she was doing it, if you don't know what the immaculate grid is, it's pretty much like, you know, an axis going horizontally and one going vertically, and you have like teams, certain things listed at the top and certain things listed on the side, and you have to name players that correspond with the axis essentially. So the first one was a player that was a Colt and played for the Miami Hurricanes. The owner said Reggie Wayne. I'm gonna go with Will Mallory because he's a current player. The next one, a Miami Hurricane that has 1,000 receiving yards, had a 1,000 receiving yard season. She went with Andre Johnson. I'm going with Santana Moss. The next one, a Miami Hurricane that is a Hall of Famer. She went with Ed Reed. I'm going with Ray Lewis. The next one, a Ram that was also a Colt. She said Eric Dickerson. I'm going with Marshall Faulk. A Ram that had 1,000 yards receiving, Isaac Bruce. I went with Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt was one of my favorite receivers watching growing up. And a Ram that was a Hall of Famer. She said Kurt Warner. I'm going with Orlando Pace. In the last row, a Colt that had 1,000 rushing yards. She said Joseph Adai. I'm going with Marlon Mack. A running back with 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing. This was pretty hard. She went with Christian McCaffrey. I went with Marshall Faulk. I tried to do this without repeating names of players off the top of my head, but I couldn't. I had to list Marshall Faulk twice. And the last one, 1,000 yards rushing and is a Hall of Famer. She went with Edgerrin James. I said Barry Sanders. In my book, Barry Sanders, best pure running back of all time. So let me know what you guys thought about as far as the league meetings. Is Anthony Richardson going to be the quarterback on this team? Is he quarterback 2 or quarterback 3? And who do you guys have in your immaculate grid? Every Monday, 7 in the morning, we're dropping videos about Colts content. Turn those notifications on so you don't miss a video. And I'll see you on the next one. Go Colts.
Thanks for watching, babe. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel.